All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Shiguru and Gauranga. Hare Krishna, devotees. This is all. So we're reading from Bhagavad Gita as it is by Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada, and we're on chapter 7, text 13. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, chapter 7 is entitled Knowledge of the Absolute. And we'll read text 13. Shivir Gunamayai Bhavar Ivi Saviram Jagat Mohitam Navijananti Mamivya Paramabhyayam Shivir Gunamayai Saviram Jagat Mohitam Navijananti Mam Ivya Paramabhyayam Sri Virgunamaya Bhaver Evi Sarvaidam Jagat Mohitam Navijananti Mamivya Paramabhyayam Anyone else? Whoever's here. Okay, we'll do word for word. Jabihi. 3. Gunamaya. Consisting of the gunas. Bhavaye. By the states of being. Ivi. All these. Sarvam. All. Idam. This. Jagat. Universe. Mohitam. Deluded. Na abhijanati. Does not know. Mam. Me. Ebya. Above these. Param. The Supreme. Avyayam. Inexhaustible. Translations and text by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Deluded by the three modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, the whole world does not know me, who am above the modes and inexhaustible. Please repeat. Deluded by the three modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, the whole world does not know me, who am above the modes and inexhaustible. Purport. The whole world is enchanted by the three modes of material nature. Those who are bewildered by these three modes cannot understand that transcendental to this material nature is the Supreme Lord, Krishna. Every living entity under the influence of material nature has a particular type of body and a particular type of psychological and biological activities accordingly. There are four classes of men functioning in the three material modes of nature. Those who are purely in the mode of goodness are called Brahmanas. Those who are purely in the mode of passion are called Kshatriyas. Those who are in the modes of both passion and ignorance are called Vaishyas, and those who are completely in ignorance are called Sudras. And those who are less than that are animals or animal life. However, these designations are not permanent. I may be either a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or whatever. In any case, this life is temporary. But although life is temporary, and we do not know what we're going to be in the next life, by the spell of this illusory energy, we consider ourselves in terms of this bodily conception of life. And we thus think that we are American, Indian, Russian, or Brahmana, Hindu, Muslim, etc. And if we become entangled with the modes of material nature, then we forget the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is behind all these modes. So, Lord Krishna says that living entities deluded by these three modes of nature do not understand that behind the material background is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There are many different kinds of living entities, human beings, demigods, animals, and etc. And each and every one of them is under the influence of material nature. And all of them have forgotten the transcendent personality of Godhead. Those who are in the modes of passion and ignorance, and even those who are in the mode of goodness, cannot go beyond the impersonal Brahman conception of the absolute truth. They are bewildered before the Supreme Lord in his personal feature, which possesses all beauty, opulence, knowledge, strength, fame, and renunciation. When even those who are in goodness cannot understand, what hope is there for those in passion and ignorance? Krishna consciousness is transcendental to all these three modes of material nature, and those who are truly established in Krishna consciousness are actually liberated. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitamena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandiham Shri Guru Shri Uta Parakamalam Shri Guru Vaisavamscha Shri Rupam Sarvajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Stam Sajivam Savadvaitam Savadutam Parejana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Param Sahagana Radita Shri Vishakam Vitamsta He Krishna Guruna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Vari Vrindavaneshwari Veshabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vancha Kapis Tarubias Cha Kripa Sindhu Bhevata Atitanam Papanebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So the title of this chapter is Knowledge of the Absolute. So here, Krishna talks about the gunas. This is just a preliminary discussion of the gunas, because in chapters, I think it's 14, he talks about the three modes of material nature in detail. And also in chapter 18, he talks about the characteristics of persons in each mode of the material nature. So here, he's just given a preliminary discussion about the three modes, because it pertains to whether the living entity can understand and know the Supreme Lord. So that's why it's entitled Knowledge of the Absolute. That's why it's entitled Knowledge of the Absolute. So that's the theme, actually, how we can get to know about the Lord and know of Him. So in this first paragraph and in the text itself, he's saying that the words used are deluded and enchanted, and they're under the spell of, because it's his energy. And whenever we get a material body, it comes with certain characteristics due to our past lives and what we brought to this present life. So he just touches on some of the aspects of how the living entity is controlled by the three modes. And that we have no control over it, actually. Because the minute we have a particular body, the modes come with that body, and we're acting helplessly under those modes. Because we know this verse in 14, I'm sure everyone knows this one, he's saying that so he's saying here that this divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. So unless we can get to we can transcend, then we're not going to really understand. And how do we transcend? We transcend by surrendering to one who can help us transcend the modes, which is the spiritual master, pure devotee of the Lord. So in the second paragraph, he's saying that every living entity under the influence of material nature has a particular type of body and a particular type of psychological and biological activities accordingly. And then he talks about the four classes of men functioning in the three material modes. But for the first two, he says, those who are purely in the mode of goodness are called brahmanas, and those who are purely in the mode of passion are called sattvas. So we know that we also have a mix, because I don't know if you know, like when you have primary colors, and the primary colors are red, yellow, and blue. And when you mix those colors, you can get different shades and different tones of colors. So the same way with the material modes of nature, you have a mix, there's a mixture. I think Prabhupada described it. I heard a lecture, about how there's a mix of it. Like for instance, everyone isn't doing pure devotional service. Some devotees have, desires, especially if they're in the mode of passion, they have certain desires. So that's a mix, but still it's good that they're serving the Supreme Lord and they're in devotional service. So when we're conditioned souls, there's no way we can understand the Lord. And so and we have no control over it. We're forced to act in a certain way, whatever body we're in. And because we're all in the bodily conception of life, everyone's thinking, I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm a Hindu, I'm an Indian, I'm a Russian, I'm black, I'm white. And from that concept, then we have, this is I and mine, this is my wife, this is my husband, these are my children. So with that concept, then we remain bound up in the material world, bound up in the laws of nature. And it said here also that Krishna is above the modes. And in the previous verse, it says he's Nirguna. So Nirguna is, he has no material qualities. He's not affected by the material modes. He's above. He's superior, he's the controller of the divine energy, which is said in the next text. But also, there's another description of him which says he's Saguna. And that means that he, like for instance, the deities are made out of material elements, like stone or wood, or painted, but it doesn't mean that he's affected by being like the article, like being in those material elements. Nothing bothers him, nothing can control him at all. So he's not in those modes no matter what he's made of. If he's like the article, he comes down for us so that we can worship him. I have an example of vices because when I was in Itanagri, when my Guru Maharaj first took over the farm, the persons, the devotees who were doing the worship were all brahmanas. They just did the deity worship. They kept the deity worship going, but there was no development on the farm, actually. There were no buildings being built. Nothing was being renewed. The deities were very nicely taken care of. So in the deity department, everything was nicely taken care of. But there was no development, no growth on the farm. So then we have a new management, and they're Vaishyas. So because of their nature, everything is developing very nicely in Gitanagari. All the buildings have been done over again. They have a yoga center, they have a welcome center. So practically, if you look around and you observe, you can see the qualities of the persons. You can recognize the qualities by, the actions, their activities. So because they had the quality of vices, Gitanagari now is very well developed. And they have a few Brahmins who are still there taking care of their lordships, Radha Damodar. So in the saying, if we become entangled with the modes of mental nature, then we forget the Supreme Person of God that was behind all the modes. And I said before that we become bound. So I'll just give a little brief description of the different modes. They are like goodness, it said, is illuminating. Those persons in the mode of goodness, they have a sense of happiness and knowledge. But the problem being its mode is also binding, because what happens is he begins to feel he's more advanced in knowledge and he's better than others. And they get stuck in the mode of goodness. And then in the mode of passion, those in the mode of passion are very materialistic. They want the results of their work. They perform fruitive activities because they want the results of their work. And those in the mode of ignorance, they're lazy and they like to sleep. And they're morose and they like to sleep. that life is temporary. We shouldn't get stuck in the mold. We shouldn't get stuck in the mold. And we do not know what we're going to be in the conception, which I spoke about earlier. Every single entity, it said, every single entity is under the influence of material nature. And all of them have forgotten the transcendent personality of Godhead. So for us, at least, when we're practicing, we should try to get to at least into the mode of goodness and then transcend goodness, because we can't stay there. Whatever activity to complete material nature. And those who are truly established in Krishna consciousness are actually liberated. So the way to understand Krishna is to completely surrender unto the Supreme Lord. So this chapter, actually, it just talks about the different type of persons who come to Krishna consciousness as well. So this chapter covers the man who is in distress. We know the different types of persons who come to this process. The man in distress, the inquisitive man, who is in want of material necessities, then someone who wants knowledge of Brahman, the knowledge of the Paramatma, and then persons, and also the chapter discusses how to get liberation from birth, death, diseases, and it talks about worship of the Supreme Lord. So I'm going to end the class now, and we can have a discussion or additions, comments, corrections. Anyone want to add something to it? No.
Everyone is controlled by the modes of material nature.
Yes.
All living entities are helpless.
Yes.
So how they can surrender to Krishna?
They can't surrender directly to Krishna because they don't know.
Because
But you have to get a
modes will not allow. Modes will not allow.
Modes will not allow.
So
Because they're controlled by the modes. So the only way that they can transcend is to surrender to the spiritual master, the pure devotee, who can free them from the modes. Because he has the transcendental knowledge to give them, to impart to them. So surrendering to the spiritual master is surrendering to Krishna, because the spiritual master represents Krishna. Completely surrender to the spiritual master. We know it's, I forget what chapter, but you approach the spiritual master. You ask questions submissively because he has seen the truth. And we were all, when we were coming, we're looking for the absolute truth. Does that answer? Anybody else want to participate? You can make it a discussion. Since there's so few of us.
yeah, today is a birthday ceremony.
Somebody-
Birthday ceremony, everyone celebrating birthday.
Oh, okay.
A small baby.
Uh-huh.
And they gone all there.
So we should have a discussion here.
Yeah?
We should have our discussion here about the knowledge of Krishna and how to get to know him. And we get to know him. Then the spiritual master engages us in devotional service.
So you also need the special mercy, like only one can make the person liberate. Somebody already liberated. So the spiritual master giving the mercy to the